Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast, Minisode. I'm Louie, and now I'll be joined by my bud, Tommy Valley, aka Tommy Trombone, aka Tommy Carbone, aka Tommy Valdez.
There it is. And I changed my Discord name to Tommy New Metal from our last episode.
Yes, so Dave isn't going anywhere. Don't worry, guys. But Tom is officially now part of the team, and we'll be putting these minisodes out a little more often from time to time, covering just like cool shit that's happening that's, Halloween related, whatever, film related, what else? Like just anything.
Yeah,
anything we want to cover basically.
Yeah, I got my opinions. I got things to say.
Yeah. And things like events and stuff like that. Like if we go to a cool, haunt or convention, which we did do one and you were there. So it kind of just makes sense for you to be the one that co-hosts, these minisodes with me. And Dave will be on them from time to time. But I thought it'd be cool to get another voice on the podcast. So, welcome, Tom. Welcome, Tommy New Metal.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And you were on our last episode, the Create a Haunt 2021 episode.
Yes, I was.
So it's you'll be popping up on the main show as well a little more often. For certain topics we cover. But we thought it would be fun to talk about this new Fear Street Netflix. I guess it's a series, right? Would you call it a series or a trilogy of films?
I think it's just a trilogy because I remember when the trailer dropped, and it's honestly pretty impressive. 3 feature-length movies. Like these aren't an hour each. This first one was an hour and 47.
Yeah, which is a little long. I honestly when I watched the trailer, I got kind of like anthology vibes. I thought originally it was going to be like 3 separate films that didn't have a narrative going through them. But after watching this first part 1, obviously they're all connected.
Yes.
So real quick, also, I want to give a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this yet, we're not gonna do a deep dive into the entire episode and plot and breakdown because this is a minisode. But we are gonna talk about some shit that happens in the film. And just in case you didn't watch it yet, why would you be here in the first place? You'd be listening to us. We're gonna be talking about it. But if you didn't and you want to, hold off and listen to us a little later after you watch it. Just wanted to give you that spoiler warning. Now, Tom, are you familiar with the Fear Street book series at all?
I actually never read them, but I was familiar with them. I know that he had he wrote these around the time of Goosebumps, and then he had like a couple spin-offs. I know he came back and did more a few years ago, but I actually had never read them. I didn't realize how are these targeted for like the older kids or like adults?
Yeah, so the Fear Street series started in the late 90s. I believe it was like 89. And then it ran until 1999. So it had a long-ass run. Okay. 10 years, basically. And then I think they took a little break, and then it came back in like 2005 until 2014, 2013, around that time. So it was ongoing for a really long time, and it's a popular book series, and they are targeted towards an older demographic, so teenagers, basically. The books are a little darker, a little more violent, like comparing it to Goosebumps, which I'm a huge fan of as well. There's dead characters like ghosts and skeletons and things like that, but people aren't really like murdered in Goosebump books because those are, targeted more towards like, if I remember correctly, because it's been a long time, like 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. This is more like 15, 16, 17-year-olds, the Fear Street series.
Yeah.
And for me, I caught the mid-90s version of Fear Street. I wasn't reading them in 89. I was really young in 89. I was a baby still almost. I was, 4 or 5 years old? 4, around that? I'm bad with math. But I was really young. I caught it later, and I remember the first book I grabbed in the Fear Street series. It was called Halloween Party. And
Oh
I believe
wow.
that came out. Yeah, it makes sense why that was the
Yeah,
first one
yeah,
I
yeah.
picked up. But I remember getting it around the time the Haunted Mask, the Goosebump book, the Haunted
Yeah.
Mask was released, because both of them centered around Halloween. So I was like, oh, R.L. Stein. And then I remember reading it. I remember grabbing, comparing the two. You look at a Fear Street book, it's obviously for older people because
Yeah.
there's way more to it. The books are longer. The type size is a lot bigger in a Goosebump book compared to a Fear Street book.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this is obviously for older people. But I did read them both, and I did enjoy both of them. Halloween Parties is great. It's a great book. It's been years since I read it, but I did enjoy it. And then there's also like The Babysitter, which is another really popular Fear Street book. I'm pretty sure if you're a fan of these books, like you own a copy of that book. I think all of us, like especially around like my age, maybe even a little older, have a copy of that book somewhere because I remember that being like kind of the most popular book. But yeah, the Fear Street series again, I feel it was almost just as important as Goosebumps. And then there was also the Point Horror series, which was another group of books that I believe it was R.L. Stein wrote some of them, Christopher Pike.
Okay.
So the like horror, like teenage horror novels were like huge in the 90s. And it's interesting how R.L. Stein was able to write these, more horrific tales in the Fear Street and Point Horror series, and then more, family, not family friendly, but I guess, younger, a younger demographic, a younger audience with the Goosebump books. So it was just a cool thing, that existed during the 90s. Now, going back to this Fear Street Part 1, 1994, I don't believe this is based on any of the books. It's just I guess, original concept, and they're just using the Fear Street name. It is cool how, Netflix released this. I think it would have been better if this was released in October. I feel like July 2nd is
Yeah.
a weird time to release this. But yeah, it's just a cool thing that they're doing. Let's jump into some of the details of this. So it was directed by a woman named I believe it's Janaik,
Yeah.
Janiak.
I think it's like Leah Janaik.
Janaik.
I did a little research on her. I know that she got some fame for her, like I think it was 2014 movie Honeymoon or something like
I
that.
never saw that.
It was another kind of horror thriller as well.
Oh, I've got to watch that then. I've never even heard of that. And it stars a bunch of unknowns, except for Maya Hawke from Stranger Things.
Yeah, I was gonna say she they put her name right on there too.
Yeah, she's very much the Drew Barrymore of this movie.
That's probably
Which-
the best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that this film off the bat was heavy. Like off, you could just tell it was inspired by Scream. Like even some of
Yeah.
the shots, the framing, are very reminiscent. Like they basically copied and paste certain shots that were in Scream. Talking about that intro, I honestly think that's the strongest
Part of the
part
movie.
of this film is the whole opening sequence with her working at a bookstore and then putting away a bunch of Fear Street books. I thought that was pretty cool that they have her
was pretty,
physically putting away the books. And it was smart because again, this is a Netflix exclusive and she's primarily known for Stranger Things.
Yes.
So it was smart to like put her in this movie and kill her off right in the beginning.
Yeah, we don't get to see them yet, but there are a couple other Stranger Things alumni in the coming up in these series.
Yes, there is. And I just thought that whole setup was really cool. I do like how that other guy that works at the mall works in like a Spencer's type store.
Yep.
And like the mall, like even setting like this character in a mall is just very Stranger Things-esque because that's kind of like the character from Stranger Things that she portrayed. You only meet her in the mall in the third season. Like that's where her character is predominantly.
Yeah, she works at that ice cream shop. I forgot what it was called.
Scoops Ahoy.
Scoops Ahoy. There it is.
Let's talk about the plot of this. I have a little line here. I literally ripped it from IMDb, and the plot or the little synopsis for this episode, because we're not going to do a full breakdown. This is a minisode. A circle of teenage friends accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. So, it's in a nutshell, it's basically Scream with a supernatural twist.
Yeah, and it's what is it? It takes place in Shady Town. Oh yeah, it's Shady Side. Shady Side is yeah, where the main characters take place, and then the better or competing school is what is it? Sunnyvale, which like gave me like Buffy vibes, because that town was called Sunnydale.
So it's Sunnyvale?
No, it's Sunnyvale. Yeah, Sunnyvale.
Okay, Sunnyvale, and then Sunnydale was from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. What'd you think of the characters in this movie?
I think they're likable. I like them a bit. It's interesting because I really do love Maya Hawke. I really do.
She's good.
Yeah, and her part in this was strong. Like, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But they really did pull a really, they pulled a Drew Barrymore, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But I think everyone else is pretty cool. I like the characters. They're charming. They're nothing. It's nothing like groundbreaking. Like, these aren't like Shakespearean actors.
No.
But like, they're fun. They're quirky little kids just trying to make by. The movie opens up with the struggle of the main character, Dina.
Dina, yes.
She's heartbroken, and I think it's like a cool inclusive moment where they don't bring too much attention to it. It's just this is what it is. Her ex, she's still heartbroken over her ex, Sam, who is now she moved to Sunnyvale, to the nicer school, and we get some tension that it's because her mother didn't approve of what was going on. But everyone else is great. I like the younger brother. He was maybe one of my favorite characters, Josh.
Yeah, he's definitely the standout.
In
this movie, and I'm assuming probably the rest of the series, because he's just a funny. Like, I love how he's obsessed with like serial killers and like occult and weird shit. Like, he knows he's got all these like newspaper clippings on his wall, like on his walls and shit. Like, he was just a funny character, and you really feel for him because he has a crush on the Kate, I think is the girl's name, one of the friends. And he like, I believe he's doing either the Contra code. It's either the Contra code or Street Fighter code.
The Konami. It's
Konami the Konami code. That's what he's doing. Yeah, the Konami code over and over again to kind of calm himself down. Which that was a nice little funny addition, like a little quirk his character had. I thought the character of Simon was pretty fun. He's obviously like the comic relief.
Yes.
There's that one shot I love that they show that he's the employee of the month every month. It's like a panning shot, and you just see his picture for like 6 months. Like, it's always him. Yeah. It was funny. I do like how I thought Dina wasn't bad as like the lead girl. Like, she was pretty good. Tough chick. Like, I thought she was cool. My least favorite was probably Sam. She was a little kind of melodramatic at times. Like,
melodramatic. Like, there is a, we're getting into spoiler territory, but there is a central theme of this that revolves around her. But so much of it does, like, so much of the highlighted moments in this don't even come from her. It comes from, like you said, like Josh or. Yeah. Also, I want to point out with Josh, I love our introduction to him is him just listening to
White Zombie.
Zombie.
No. He's he's also listening to something else too. There's a lot of music in this movie.
Oh yeah.
It's a little it's almost too in your face though. Like, there's like the song will play for like 10 seconds and then they cut it off. There's like 15 songs all from the 90s in this movie, but it's like song cut, song cut, song cut, song cut. Then it just stops. Then they bring it back later. So, it was cool, but it did get a little like kind of just like
showy.
Like, they were really shoving it in your face. Like, okay, this is the 90s. Here's music. But I guess that was kind of the point. I thought the characters. I do like that they killed off Kate and Simon because I was expecting all of them to live. I was like, they're not gonna kill, because they had killed a bunch of like other random people that were like involved, like a nurse, the doctor, and all that stuff. But like, I didn't expect them to kill the actual teenagers, and they both get pretty gruesome
Yeah,
deaths.
I was gonna say the gore in this is actually that's like we were talking about before about like how Fear Street is the more adult version of
Yes.
Goosebumps, and I'm like it definitely shows here because the gore for the most part is practical
Yes.
and like it's brutal, like it's creative. It might be some of those creative deaths I've seen in a while. It's funny coming from a Netflix like adaptation
Yeah.
of Fear Street.
Yeah. Kate's death is the most brutal.
Most
Like,
brutal, Jesus
what is that?
Christ.
Like a meat grinder or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, her
I
head
think
gets like
it's
ripped apart in like 8 pieces. I was like,
oh, you know
whoa.
what it is? That's the thing in the meat department. They use that to cut up meat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's some sort of meat cutting machine. But yeah, she got the most brutal. And then they killed Simon like 2 seconds afterwards. He takes like an axe to the head. But what are some of your like favorite moments, favorite things in this movie? What are two of your favorite things in this movie?
All honestly, the opening is maybe my favorite part. It is very reminiscent of Scream, but even the lighting of the situation, like I
Yes.
love the lighting, that high contrasted blue with the reds.
Yeah, I like the cinematography too. I actually have that on my notes as well. I think the cinematography is really strong in this movie. They do have a lot of creative shots where characters are in the center of the frame, and they'll flip it to a perspective of another character. Like you just touched on, the lighting, they'll have like a red, very creep show esque, where there's like
Yes,
a red
very
light here and then a
Creepshow, yeah.
blue light down at the bottom. It really pops. I thought that the entire production, like their DP and even the editor, I thought they did a fantastic job. The other thing I liked was that they reference another R.L. Stine book, Halloween Night, by basically lifting the look of the skeleton killer's costume from it. So the book Halloween Night Part 2 actually is the sequel, because the first one I think just has a jack-o'-lantern on the cover with a knife in it. They obviously based the killers, like in the video version of this minisode. I'm gonna show it. You can
Yep,
see
there it is.
the skeletons. There's like three of them on the cover. They're all wearing the hoods with the rubber skull mask and the skeleton body. It's interesting because that's not a Fear Street book. That's a point horror book. So
Yeah.
it's just a funny like little reference to another R.L. Stein involved book series.
Yeah,
Which leads me to believe there's a possibility that next year, in a few years, we'll get a point horror film.
Oh yeah, I can imagine, especially if this is successful, they would very easily do that. I think they did that. Well, one, because it's a reference to another R.L. Stein property, and two, they're mimicking the times. Like this was the
Yes.
killer in the '90s. Like '94, 2 years later, you get Scream. So it's like, okay, this kind of fits that style pretty
Yes,
much. Like
yes.
then we have a couple other killers, which if there is to say things I wasn't huge on, like I thought it was cool, but it kind of gets a little too distracting when there's so many things going on. Like
Yes.
because there's so many killers. Like we get introduced to several, and my second favorite was the like Jason knockoff.
Yeah.
Like they had a Jason knockoff, and he's got the potato sack, he's got the red flannel on, and he's got the he had a big ass axe. He
Yeah.
was cool, but like once because each of these characters are really cool, the way they're designed and the way that they go after and attack. But it just seemed like the more we got to know about what's going on, and I'm hoping that because it's almost counterintuitive to the mystery of the slasher when everything is so explained.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so like that was one of my issues, and another one of my issues is and I mean this is also I think just a product of it being like a teenage horror story. There wasn't as much emote. Like one of the students gets killed at the very beginning, and it seems like very insensitive. People just like running through the halls carrying corpses. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I get it. Kids could be assholes, but somebody's got to be sad.
Yeah, she had to have friends somewhere. Like,
Yes, yeah, it seemed like nobody cared.
well, apparently people cared because they had it was
Yeah,
Maya
they-
Hawke's character. They had, like, I think it was her character. Yeah, it was. They had like the little
Yes.
pictures of her and like "I miss you already" and stuff like that on the locker.
Yeah.
Talking about some cons. Now that you mention yours, I have two things. The runtime did not need to be an hour and 45 minutes. They could have shaved
Agreed.
15 minutes off of this first episode, especially knowing now that all three films are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that last act went on way too long.
Too long, yeah.
Yeah, they even like have a little teaser to the next one at the very end. I was like, that was unnecessary. You guys could have like just put to be continued and go on with it next week because we're gonna have another episode. And again, like I think you touched on it, but a very dense story. So I guess there was a lot to tell. There's a witch. There's killers. There's these 5 kids. There's this. Like again, it was very dense, and there was just a lot of plot. And I guess they needed an hour and 45, but it wasn't necessary. Like the whole sex scene where like the two of them make up and they're going at it, and then the Josh and Kate are in the bathroom and he's getting all sexy with her, and then the one dude's beating his meat. Like all of that could have been cut out entirely of the film. It wasn't like they could have made up quickly in dialogue, kissed or something, and then cut and move on. Move on with the story.
I think it is important that they had that moment of connection, that moment of vulnerability, but it does go on a little too long.
Yeah.
A lot more. I was, because I just kept thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is R.L. Stein, and then I'm watching 2 girls finger banging each other. I'm like, damn, that's pretty rad. Amen. God bless. Yo,
Tom, you're so funny.
Keep the Pride Month going.
Oh man. The next thing that I really didn't like was I thought the Halloween setting, it's supposed to be October 2nd, was super lazy. Super duper lazy. It was supposed to be early, I'm assuming like late September, early October. And, being a Halloween lover myself, and obviously with Haunted Hangover and our audience and everyone that watches, I think most people that love Halloween will agree with me that all they did was stick like that classic pumpkin pail. They just put them like around random places to show that it's Halloween. Like they could have done a little bit more with decorations, maybe in the school, decorations in the hospital or in the precinct or in front of people's houses. Even if it's just like a glowing jack-o'-lantern. There was none of that. So I found that so odd that they didn't, like, I almost was like, this, like watching it, I was like, does this take place on Halloween or not? Like it was just a little confusing because I saw the pumpkins, but it was like the same recycled like jack-o'-lantern pail over and over again. And I was just kind of like, they could have done a way better job establishing that this is like Halloween in a small town, because I feel like small towns like that, so like small suburban towns, are the places that embrace the holiday the most.
Yeah.
So it was just an very odd choice.
Oh yeah,
with this show.
No, it just felt like
short
Halloween.
It's a
Halloween
mini series.
Yeah. It just felt like Halloween wasn't embedded in the DNA of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like usually when you see like, argue it's good or bad when you watch another Netflix property like Hubie Halloween.
Yeah.
That
was like dripping with Halloween.
With Halloween.
Yeah.
It's its own, like Halloween in a good, like in something, the reason why we watch is because Halloween itself is a character.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why, like, even you can watch something, you could argue the back and forth of whether you like Hubie Halloween, but you watch that, you feel Halloween. There's a Halloween character. And even in, like, you watch the Halloween franchise, each of them do a pretty good job of selling this as Halloween. Like, I have my issues, and it is not an amazing movie, but what I love about Halloween 6 is Halloween really is the character.
Yeah.
Like, it's dripping in Halloween. And this felt like, take it or leave it. It might be Halloween, it might not be Halloween.
Yeah. Again, I feel like it's obviously October. It's not, like, close to Halloween, but I feel like they could have presented, it would have helped the film's atmosphere a little bit more. Again, maybe they just were trying to stay away from that because of the Halloween franchise or something. I don't know, but I feel like this film would have definitely benefited from adding just a couple of more decorations. Fine, you don't have to go crazy like Hubie Halloween, but like definitely add a little bit more to it. I feel like it would have worked. I also think this would have been great to release this entire series, this trilogy of films in October. Like, missed opportunity there, but
I know.
Whatever.
I think maybe because this is the thing I noticed about horror movies. They either are pushed in late summer, like as a summer release.
It's weird.
Or they get pushed in October. But October is a very competitive month. They might have Netflix, I don't know what their plan is for Halloween.
Yeah.
They might have other projects.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, because like think about how perfectly timed this could have been if like the first week you have one movie, the
Yeah.
second week you had another movie.
So
like
weird.
Yeah.
Weird decision to release this in July, but it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. So I'm going to give my final thoughts, and I want yours here in closing. So I can't really rate this yet because it feels like the beginning of a larger story. So when we come back to cover the second one, which I believe is 1978, Fear Street 1978, I could see where it's going more, and I can better rate it. So I wouldn't give it like out of 5. Right now, I wouldn't want to give it anything because I don't think it's fair. I want to see what the overall story being told is. I did dig it. I didn't think it was completely terrible. I wanted to love it more. Don't get me wrong. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it as much as I would have liked to. What did you think of this first part, 1994?
I think I honestly I'm in agreement with a lot of your points. Like I love the beginning. I do like the characters. I was having fun, but I think the middle, like the second going into the third act, is just too long. I started to lose interest, and like once we know the mystery or we know the whole story, it becomes harder to pay attention because now it's just a matter of like, okay, we have this exact structure we have to get through, and we have to get through it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to rate because hopefully as a whole package, this is one epic story. But as its own thing, it's like, I liked it a lot, but not enough to be like, this is amazing. It's more like, it was a fun thing, and if I see it again, I would love to see parts of it, but I can't as a whole be like, yeah, that the whole thing's going to be a fun rewatch.
There's one last thing I wanted to say. What I do like about it, it does remind me of like the made-for-TV movies from like the late 80s, early 90s, like Stephen King's It, that were divided up into like 2 or 3 parts. Like it was 2 parts, but there was other made-for-TV movies. I think The Shining, even though it's not a great the TV movie, the TV Stephen King's The Shining version of that film was, I think, broken up into 3 parts. So I do like how this is very reminiscent of that, and you feel that. So that's really cool. Again, we'll be back talking about part 2, and I'm hoping it elevates this first movie, this first part, the second one and third one. So we'll see what happens. So that was Fear Street Part 1, 1994. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Haunted Hangover, and don't forget to rate and review us. That'd be greatly appreciated. And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Later, guys.